This podcast and every other podcast that I make is supported by Patreon. You can request certain actors as guests, submit questions for the show, and actually, this episode, Patreon's got a little pre-show, a few extra minutes at the top. They also get outtakes and unedited content too. So if you'd like to support these very independent podcasts, check the link in the description. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Voice Acting 101. Today, I am joined by Ben. Ben, who are you and why are you here?
My name is Ben, and as you already said, so
Yes, thank
already
you, though.
we're off to a flying start. And I'm here because I am an actor who voices Clive Rosfield in Final Fantasy 16, and
Heard of
um,
him?
yeah, he's around at the moment. People
Yeah.
like him, I met you and spoke to you and said how much of a fan I was of your work and stuff, and you said, why don't you come and talk about your work?
And
Um,
here we
and
are.
and here we are. That is the magic of two people having a normal conversation.
Anything is possible.
I know.
Uh,
Just think of it.
you said that Clive's pretty popular, which I would agree with.
Hmm.
You worked on the game for quite some time.
I did.
I feel like Clive has exceeded my expectations in terms of popularity. Did you have any anticipation for how people were going to react to the character before it actually came
No,
out?
not at all.
Mm.
No. I think because I didn't know anything about, I mean, I obviously knew all about Final Fantasy. I'm a huge fan, but just the idea of having expectations of how popular that character would be, I just couldn't really figure out what the scale would be,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like what I did, couldn't possibly comprehend that millions of people would play it. I knew they would, but I didn't know how that would kind of come back in the feedback sense.
I guess it's
And
like if you try to picture a million people in a room and you kind of can't, it just becomes a number.
yeah,
What does
yeah.
it mean?
Imagine all those people in a field, like that's a lot
Terrifying.
and
I don't like that field
scary.
at all.
Yeah.
It's too many
Also,
people.
how much land do you own if they're all in a field? It's mad.
How big's the field? I have so many
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah. So much. Are they very small people in a very large field? What is
You see, you can't unpack it. It'll just give you anxiety. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
and that's the inside of my brain there. So that's how I feel about Clive: is millions of people, very very small people in a very large field.
So,
Um,
what has the response largely been? I know what my perspective is, but yours is a very unique one, obviously, playing Clive.
yeah, I have loved. So at the beginning, before it came out, I really kind of wanted people to lean into the bit that resonated with me most when we were making this, which is Clive's vulnerability, which I very much wore on my sleeve when I was making this game. Of like, he is a tough old hero. He's going to do all the hero stuff that you see in video games, but he suffers a lot, and I wanted that to be as visceral and real as possible for people, and quite ugly in many ways,
Mhm.
which I like. Um, and That's what I love. That immediately the response was like, Clive seems quite real for a protagonist, and a lot of people have latched onto that. But to be honest, the bit that really people have leaned in on is all the memes. It's all him being a baby girl, him
Hmm.
him with his chest, all of
He
the stuff.
is
And I
hot.
he is
Yeah.
so hot.
Unavoidably so.
It's distracting. Um and Yeah, I love that I mean, I love that he's attractive. Go on, good for you, Clive. He's cool, and I think it's nice actually that you see that level of vulnerability in a guy that attractive.
Also
you know,
true. Yeah.
really quite cool, right?
Yeah. I would say
And
that he's the most relatable Final Fantasy villain from my perspective. And I can't imagine
yeah,
that's easy. So, like, you mentioned before we started recording that you worked on this for 4 years
yes,
and it spans three different periods of Clive's life. How do you bring complexity to a character over that span of time, both in the game and in the real world? Like, do you ever have trouble keeping up with where you are?
yeah, yeah, you do. I mean, to say I didn't would be just the biggest lie over
Yeah.
4 years. Uh, I think you have to. I think what because it was such a long period of time, the kind of like, where does Ben end and Clive begin kind of went a bit like that a lot. It got to a point where I didn't need as much direction as maybe I did in the first couple of couple of sessions, first couple of months, really, where there was kind of a real general consensus of who he was and where we wanted him to go. And I think those scenes where you see him at his weakest, those ones where you go, oh, that's some snot crying there, Clive. They came about because of how comfortable we all were in the room. I was very lucky to work with some amazing performance directors, Hannah Price, Ollie Chance, Morgan Rushton, and obviously Koji and John Taylor in Japan.
Yeah, this is. I was talking to Koji about it. This is the first Final Fantasy that's recorded English first, as
Yeah,
well, which is like a new undertaking for that entire franchise. That's obviously many games long at this point. A whole 17 of them.
I know. There's here we are, and I'm thrilled that like I got to do that, because I don't think I've never up to this point, and I probably won't again, have that amount of creative freedom over a character to make those choices.
So
And
how
so
did you like leaning into that? How did you actually get the role of Clive, and going even further back, how did you start out as an actor?
so I just wrote them letters every day.
Just your
No,
harassment is what you would.
it's and it just works. It
Yeah.
really does. So please
Never
harass Square
gone
Enix.
wrong.
They love it. Yeah, please always just send them like bloody towels and things like that. Um, I it was this is just the most kind of unremarkable story, and it was just a normal audition I didn't know anything about. I've said this before, but I auditioned for another character. They then said, "Would you like to read this?" I sight read it. It resonated with me, and then
Makes
two
a
weeks
better
later,
audition, I suppose, if it resonates with
yeah,
you.
it really like. And like, I'm not an experienced voice actor. I'm not like one of these seasoned pros who has 1,000 credits to their name and
Hmm.
legions of fans and worked on loads of things, and that is such a skill. I'm not like that. I'm just a kind of common or garden stage and screen actor. Like, and they wanted that when they came in, because they knew that we were originating these roles.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I went in, and it was scary at first, because, well, I didn't really know. They just said, come in now in 2 weeks' time and record Final Fantasy 16, and don't tell anyone. By the way, this is your favorite franchise. Don't tell anyone.
Well, I assume
Um,
that you also in the audition, it didn't even indicate that it was Final Fantasy 16, right? They tend to be pretty.
they cut out all of the code words, and I'm so good whenever
Mm.
I go in for auditions. I guess the game every single
I've
time.
seen tons of them for different Star Wars games, and they
Yeah,
always just write Templar. Like,
yeah,
okay, I
yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
what this is. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
They just
not
don't
hidden
take.
at
They don't
all.
change the name Jedi. It's just still Templar. Ah, you are a Jedi. Oh, it's just ruined it.
But I feel like Final Fantasy 16 especially probably would be pretty hard to guess because it's tonally very different from previous games in the series as well.
Big time. I thought it was. I They said it was a big fantasy RPG series,
Hmm.
and I think I originally thought it was going to be Elden Ring, or like a Lord of the Rings sort of
Yeah.
feeling. Like I was, and I thought that's maybe what it is. And nope. When they took all the names away, I think Dominants were called Demonites in it, um, and Clive was called Clint. Um,
I love
yeah,
that. Like,
so
Clive would have been a spoiler.
no, no,
Nobody
no,
knows who he
I know.
is.
No one knows who he is.
That's amazing.
They do. Well, Alanah, they do now.
They
He's
do
one of the best
now.
protagonists of Final Fantasy. Yeah, I just didn't know anything. And then when they gave me I think the script, they gave me the script in advance, and they said, here is 673 pages of a
Oh, that's
script.
really uncommon.
Yes, the whole script,
Wow. Did you
everything
read the whole
in a
thing?
screenplay. No, I did not. I did not, because they were like, you're coming in tomorrow and recording, and
Right.
things change,
Yeah.
right? This was the script that had been translated back in up to
Gotcha.
that point into 20, or written, not translated, but like written with Koji and
Mm.
my hero, and it was in a screenplay form.
That
And
is very
yeah,
unusual.
it was very, very unusual. And obviously that script has been expanded and moved and changed,
A
because
ton.
that's what game development is. But yeah, it was a crazy old thing. And then I went in and just started saying lines.
Do you remember what your
At,
expectations were like on your first day? What did you think it was going to be versus what it was
I thought I was going to get fired. I thought I was
Great.
going to get fired
Okay,
every
great.
day. I lost my voice. I ruined my voice within like the first
Yeah.
2 days because I was like, what do you want me to do? I'll do anything. Please don't fire me. And I learnt over the 4 years just the most incredible amount of voice control. That was
you're
a
an
skill.
absolute pro now, like working on that for 4 years. Is that you
Yeah.
are a seasoned voice actor now? That's a long time.
Thank you so much. Well, I worked out with Martin Vaughan, who is the casting director at Side UK, which is where we recorded it. And Side is where they recorded a lot of Cyberpunk, Assassin's Creed.
There is also a Side
The
LA,
Witcher.
which I think is where I
Yes.
recorded Cyberpunk, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So Cider, they're very, very experienced, and they now have offices and places all across the world.
Yeah.
And Martin, who's been the casting director there for years and years and years, I was having a chat with him in the cafeteria one day, as you do, and he was saying that they reckon that by the time I was done on this, I was the one. That is my dog.
Hello.
That's Milton.
Can we bring Milton? Thoughts?
Can we-
Milton, what are your thoughts?
I can't. He's just barking. I don't know why he's doing this.
Sorry,
You're embarrassing, Milton. You're embarrassing me.
No,
In
I
front
promise
of all
you,
of
it
these
adds to the quality of the podcast. The
It
more
does,
presence
doesn't
of
it
dogs,
just?
the better.
I'll go and get him in a bit, and I'll use him for likes. Yeah, we worked out that I think I had been the one actor who'd worked on a single project for the longest amount of time, a single project, and done the most amount of hours, because it wasn't like we were doing 40 lines an hour. We were doing a lot less, like a lot less, and we weren't doing it until it was right. And so sometimes we would just really go down and down and down and down, because we would have these head cams on, and it's a lot of all the cut sequences that you see are just, our facial movements shoved to Clive's face or Jill's face or Sid's face.
Did you
and that would take
have them on every time?
So I would say 50% of the time I did. So for the big detailed cut sequences that you see, the big action pieces, the big key moments, I would have those on. And then the other time would be for kind of like all the side quests or the party chat, all the stuff like that. When you can't see a mountain, you're like, wow, look at that mountain.
I think it broke the record for most cutscenes in a AAA game. I think most hours of cutscenes, maybe.
That's a lot.
Which is also a lot for you, though. Like, I assume you did PCAP and mocap.
No, I did. So I didn't do. You ran along.
Oh, I saw him. Cameo.
Yeah. Get him.
Big bark for that little guy.
Yeah.
I was expecting a bigger dog.
Such a small boy. He's like this big. He's a lovely boy. And now you've done his barking. He's done.
He's contributed.
He was in the studio, actually, in the booth when I would do lines for Torgal.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cute. Oh, gosh.
He's so nice.
So he's technically Torgal.
Yeah, he didn't record any of the lines.
Right,
he isn't. He's not a wolf.
For your performance purposes,
yes.
Torgal, canon.
He will always a canon Torgal. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to start him. He's going to go to conventions and stuff and start signing stuff with his paw.
I think about selling my dog out all the time. There's like a huge market for like pet influencers. I'm like, does he need it though?
There really is.
Not.
I regret not doing like it because he's stupidly cute. He's a tiny Yorkshire Terrier with just the most beautiful face. And I just think, God, if I had the time and the willpower and the patience, I should have started like an Instagram. I'd have got so much free dog food.
You still can.
No, I can't be bothered.
That's my attitude to almost everything I want to do.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah,
I can't be bothered.
That's happened to me now in my life. I'm like, I could easily do that, but I don't want to.
But what if I didn't?
Yeah.
I need to do that more, actually. What was the question I just asked you?
I don't know.
You did not do motion capture. So Clive's, I know this happens often. Clive's body is probably multiple people.
Yes. Many peeps.
It's, usually like stuntmen of various varieties.
Well, also brilliant motion capture actors. So there's two, I know there were two recording processes that happened throughout because there was just so much that had to be done. When we first started, there was motion capture happening in Japan, and then there was also motion capture happening in Hungary. And so there were lots of brilliant actors who were out there doing the scenes, in place in situ, and then we would watch those scenes back, and then
Interesting.
we would then
So they
have
recorded before you, for you to then add facial capture to.
So yeah, it was doing all at this. It was doing all at the same time, and then what I would see in front of me is like a screen of the scene, and then I would essentially do it like ADR.
That's super interesting. Wow, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it was a process, a full on process.
Yeah.
But that was part of it. I mean, there were just so many different versions. It was such an amazing learning process, but that's kind of what we ended up settling on. And what I really love about this was that I got to do stuff with Ralph Ineson, who plays Sid, and I got to do stuff with Susanna Fielding, who plays Jill. And that was the coolest part, was getting to be there and us doing stuff together. So early on, before we saw any of it, we actually did some stuff without seeing it, and just kind of a lot of the stuff that you see in the game isn't us like dubbing over anything. It's just us just playing. And I think that's where you see the most free stuff.
Yeah.
I think that like you get that real chemistry, and people have really responded to Clive and Sid's relationship, which I love.
Definitely.
And I love Ralph. He's great. He is just game for fun.
Very hot. Sid. Everybody's hot. They knew what they were doing.
Everyone's hot. Everyone's sexy.
Yes, excessively. I'm a fan though.
I described it as sarcastically attractive.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I remember just seeing every time I'd see more and more characters in this game and going, of course.
That's very good. I asked you this, but we sort of glossed over it. You gave me a brief answer, but I'd love to dig into it.
So sorry, I'll make it longer this time.
Yeah, can you please answer better?
Yeah,
thank you.
I will do. Yeah, you're so welcome.
The question was how you got started. You mentioned theater and screen, but what does that mean? How did you start acting?
Do you mind if I have a glass of wine? Is
Go
that
ahead.
okay?
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is so
Why
cool.
am I unpacking something really traumatic?
Give me
a second. I got to get drunk
Alanah,
first.
I poured this very crisp glass of wine, and I was just so acutely aware that I didn't want to suddenly start sipping it. This is a lovely Gavi that I'm drinking right now.
It still looks nice and... hang on, I can talk while you drink wine. Let me ask the question in a longer way. So, you're an actor, several years on Final Fantasy 16, but that's not the extent of your acting, of course, as you have experience from other places.
Question.
What are they? Wow.
This is, first of all, thank you for asking it.
Anytime.
And it was phrased so well.
Thank you.
I started acting professionally after I left drama school. So I went to the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, LAMDA, in London.
Oh, I've heard of LAMDA. It's fancy, I think.
It's a fancy school. It's a fancy school. Lots of fancy actors went there.
Great.
I was very lucky to be one of those actors who kind of imagined being one of those fancy actors. But I started like wanting to be an actor from about the age of 9, maybe. I was very lucky. I played Gavroche, the little urchin kid in Les Mis, in the National Touring Company of Les Mis.
Oh, cool.
So that was when I was 11 years old, I played Gavroche for 3 months.
That's awesome.
Singing and dancing around covered in soot.
Do they pay you when you're 11? How does that work?
They do pay me. They pay me.
That's great. Happy to hear it. It's like, I don't know how the economy, how does hiring work?
So
child labor, technically, I don't know.
Here, listen, this is some expert. This is like insider trading.
Great.
Inside baseball. I would say words on stage, and they would give me pounds like that, and I would say thank you so much, and then I would put them in my bank.
Wow.
And it was really fun. I know, it's a really amazing concept.
That is actually very cool, though. Like, as an 11-year-old, like I'm sure so many kids dream of getting to do that, and you actually got to do it. That's awesome.
I felt bad because I just started at my new school, like it was year 7, so I don't know what that would be in the States.
I don't either, to be fair. Year 7 for us is
maybe
primary school
grade.
is 1 to 7.
So this is the one after primary school. This is like the first year of senior school.
You guys are the same as Australia, right? It's primary school and high school?
Yeah.
So we're the same, but we start high school grade 8.
first year of high school.
Yeah.
Imagine this. You are in class and your treat after high school is to go and see one of your classmates in a 3.5-hour musical. And so my class trip was to come and see me perform Les Mis.
Aww.
And
That means you didn't get a class trip?
I didn't know. I didn't get a class trip, but I was lucky because I also did all the sports and all the stuff. So they were kind of like, oh, Ben's that guy. But I felt really bad because I forced all of my new class to come and see. I didn't, but the school thought it would be educational for them to watch a musical about the French Revolution.
How much do you think 11-year-olds fuck with Les Mis?
They fuck hard. They fuck hard with Les Mis. Oh, big time.
I might have liked it. I don't know.
I
think I saw it when I was 11.
Yeah. I think I remember so vividly being like fancying so much the woman who played the older Eponine. Like I was in love with her. And I think she kind of knew because she gave me like some nice sweets and things. And she was like, you were being groomed. I was being groomed. Yeah. No, that was not happened. As I said it, I went, this sounds like a grooming story.
Yeah. No, I understand. She just thought you were a cute kid and she was being nice to you.
Yeah. And I was obviously like 11 and absolutely in love with her because she was incredibly talented and beautiful and singing and just all the above.
Yes. That's all you need when you're 11.
Yeah. And I was also terrified of the guy who played Javert, who's like the policeman. And interestingly not, Stuart Clark, who plays Dion in the Final Fantasy 16, currently plays Javert on the West End.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool.
So there's a lot of Les Mis in Final Fantasy 16.
Well, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. It's too much, if anything. So yeah. And then
not enough songs. But so that was your first technically professional work, which is nuts. That started very early. And you just wanted to be an actor the whole time and then ended up at Lambda. Like you just knew exactly what your path was.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Amazing.
From 11, I knew that I was going to be an actor. And then I went to school, did all the school stuff, then went to university, knew that I wanted to go to university and do history. And then I was like, I want to go to drama school. I just applied and got in. And it was this strange thing where I was like, well, I'm just going to go to drama school. I'm going to go. And I didn't think that thousands of people apply and most of them don't get in. But just part of me just went, no, you'll be fine, Ben. You're good enough.
What's the application process then?
You would send in an application and they would say, yes, we'd like you to come down to London to audition. And then you would stand in front of a panel of people and do a classical and a modern piece. So I think I did Rumour from Henry IV Part 2, which is a banging monologue about being the personification of rumor. It's really good and it still holds up today. And I also had my backup, which was a Hamlet speech. And then I did another speech from The Pillow Man, which is a Martin McDonagh play, currently on the West End, actually, with Lily Allen. But it's Martin McDonagh. It's about a totalitarian state, and it's an amazing, quite haunting play, traditionally dark, like Martin McDonagh. And then, you do those pieces, and then you'd be really nervous, and then they would send you a written letter.
Nice, like Hogwarts.
It's exactly like Hogwarts.
By Owl.
And it would be like a really nice thick parchment.
Do you still have it?
No.
You should have kept it.
No, I don't.
I would have kept it.
Yeah, I know, but you're better than I am. You're a better person than I am.
No, just sentimental. Keeping letters makes me superior.
Yeah.
I'm a hoarder.
Yeah. No, you've got lovely. Your room looks lovely.
You do have a lot of stuff. Yeah, it's come together. It took a while, though.
I wish I had a room like yours. I really wish I had a room.
You probably could.
Yeah. I mean, again, now that I've said it, I regret saying. I wish, I covet your room. I wish I could have your room.
Again, you probably could just put some plants in the back there.
Thank you so much.
Is that a dog bed?
That is a dog bed. I've set it up in the bedroom because downstairs it's just better to do all the stuff up here. So I've got like absolute chaos behind this screen here.
I can't see it.
And no, that's the great thing.
Beautiful.
That's the great. Yeah, I shouldn't have said anything.
No,
people
actually, now the
know.
illusion's shattered. Now everyone thinks you're a mess. And previously,
gosh, this is a nightmare. I wanted to give such a good impression, and I've ruined.
Now everyone thinks you have a messy room. Oh no!
I've embarrassed myself on the internet again.
after drama school, how
Yeah.
do you get work? I'm sure a lot
Yeah.
of people follow that path, and people who listen to this podcast, a lot of people who do are people who are interested in getting into acting or voice acting.
Yeah.
What's the process to actually like find an agent or management? Like, how do you
Mm.
go from school to working?
There is no path to
Mm.
that. It is all just luck and circumstance. But my luck and circumstance went like this, which is I did a final year showcase and an agent came to see me, and
Oh,
then I went for an
nice.
interview, and I was lucky to go to Lambda. Like, it's one of the best drama schools in the world. And so they do a showcase and all the agents turn up because they want to see who the next hot
Right.
young things are. And
Right. So
it's
you're kind of a shoe-in if you get to go to that particular school.
you have a great platform on which to showcase your skills. You are not guaranteed an agent.
Right.
And even some of the best actors that I knew who I trained with didn't get agents because it's so crazy and random, the process. But I was very lucky. Very, very lucky.
I mean, everyone has a different path, and I don't think any of them are easy. And there's no way to like force your way into it. But I suppose that your avenue there is try and go to a good school. Like, I think that that's a pretty solid piece of advice to start with. There seem to be a lot of people who think they can skip the school part, but I imagine you feel like learning is valuable. I tend to feel like learning is pretty valuable.
I like to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot at drama school. And I didn't think I did. And now I just think about all of the skills that
How
I
you're
learned.
applying them.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just I take for granted all of the things that I have learned throughout my education and throughout my career, that I would say to someone who isn't an actor, and they would be amazed that I know that stuff. But for me, it's just stuff that you just take in, you just absorb it. And I don't think I'm particularly knowledgeable about anything really, but I'm more knowledgeable than I was 10 years ago.
For sure.
And I think that you just pick all this stuff up. Like, I really do think acting is a doing. It's not a sit and a study. It is a doing. It's making mistakes. I'm such a practical actor, which is, you can give me 30,000 notes, like, I won't listen to them. I will listen to one or two and take things that are actionable within that. And often it'll be, what is the action in this scene? What do I need to do? And I'll play that and go, okay, that's great. And I will then interpret it, because that's all it is. It's alchemy. It's the moment of the combination of writing, direction, and performance, and how those come together, and all three people interpreting that work in a way that you cannot predict.
Yeah.
And I firmly believe that. And my experience has always been, just do it. And the best stuff that I've ever done personally, that I think, God, Ben, I'm really proud of that. Because I always speak about myself in the third person.
Yeah.
Like, very important. That's rule one. Always speak about yourself in the third person.
It's a
Everyone
very
respects
English
you.
thing to do, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Really...
just how you command respect in this career.
Yeah.
If
you take anything away from this, make sure it's that.
Yeah. Straight down the barrel of the lens. Yep. Everyone talk about yourself in the third person. But it's the doing. And I'm a big fan of playing. I'm quite a playful actor. I like to joke around and be silly, but also, when the time comes, be as incredibly serious as I possibly can. But with that play comes my willingness to fail and be made a fool of. So I don't mind trying something and then just falling on my ass, because I think it's a great way of succeeding in ways that you never thought.
Better to take a risk and make the wrong choice than to make consistently boring choices.
Oh my God. Absolutely. And also, I got given this bit of advice from an actor that I worked with quite early on in my career, which is, the most remarkable thing about you is you. Because like, don't try and give them what you think they want. Give them what you can do. Like, don't predict what someone wants from you. And obviously take direction, and there's room within that thing, but like, you are what makes you interesting. So, and no one else can do what you do, despite what you may think. And I've always kind of taken that to heart. and thought, yeah, you know what, I am gonna do that and make a choice. If you do anything, just make one choice. Because the amount of actors you see that you just haven't made any choices. There is
It's better to
nothing.
make a game director, Corey, studio director, creative director, says this all the time that it's better to. I've said all the time. It's like I've heard him say it once. It's better to
He
have
won't
made
shut
them
up about it.
every day, talking to us about actors making choices. Better to make a choice and be wrong about it than to not make a choice. And I think that comes from like not making a choice. You can be boring or not have an understanding of who any character is. Like it comes across as you're reading a script rather than playing a character, and that's going to serve you worse than like a director giving you a note of like, oh, we need to change this slight thing rather than the whole thing is wrong. Which some people make strange choices though. There was a guy who submitted an audition for the character of Balder, who's just sitting over there. I think he was eating a sandwich during an audition or something like that.
There's that famous scene, obviously, the scene where you just watch him silently eat a sandwich for a long period of time. Yeah.
And then there he is. No, there's some choices are definitely a little odd, but you've also got to stand out in some way. I feel like that's such an intimidating part of being an actor, is the amount of effort you can put into learning lines and submitting a tape for them to never contact you again. And like, that's just never happens in any other career. And you have to give them your time. It just seems nuts. It seems so mean.
It's so mean. And it's something that I have completely normalized in my head, is that I can get tapes through for stuff that I think that like I've done an amazing job on, and I've put days of work in, and I put so much thought, and I've set the camera up, and I've edited the piece, and I've sent it off, and I am just thrilled because of the work that I've done. And then I will hear nothing, and you will hear nothing, and then the project will happen and go away, and it'll go to somewhere else. And I can also do the opposite, which is I put zero work in, I send the tape off, and I get the part. And there is no rhyme or reason to that.
That seems to happen to Rahul a lot all the time too. He's like, I get the ones that I didn't put any effort into.
Do you read on the other side?
Often,
Oh, great.
Yeah. Great. So I have to do a lot of reading.
Oh my god.
A lot of recording.
Do you give notes?
I do sometimes, yes. Yeah. I will sometimes direct, but only if I'm allowed. There's a thing that I sometimes do that I'm told is terrible etiquette, which is giving a line read. Like I'll be like, just say it like this, and then I say the way I expect him to say it. And apparently actors hate that.
Yeah, that's probably the worst thing you can do to an actor.
My bad.
But I like it. I really do sometimes. And I'd say this on 16 sometimes, where like Morgan, who is he's an amazing director. He works at a company called Schlock, who localize like Death Stranding and Ni no Kuni and Dragon Quest and 16. And Morgan is so specific about the performance that he wants, and is a brilliant director, and is incredibly passionate. But sometimes I would be saying something and it wouldn't be, he'd have an idea in his head. And because I got so close to Morgan, I would just say, just tell me the line reading.
Yeah.
How do you want me to say it? How do you want me to say it? And it'd be like that. And I'm going, fantastic. Because in his mind, that's what it was. And I would.
Why is it not okay other times?
Because the etiquette surely is you want the actor to be able to express themselves.
Yeah, I guess you're literally just telling an actor exactly how to act.
You're taking any agency away from the performance.
Yep,
however, if I am banging my head up against the wall, I have no problems in people telling me exactly how they want me to say it.
I guess especially if you're recording for as long as you did, like with 16.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
I'd lose so much of an understanding of a particular line often, because you say it so many times. There are some scenes in it, like scenes towards the end of the game, that I did in one take. That are the first take that we did, like the ending of the game, one take.
Wow.
One take. And that's just because it just worked, right? There was that. It was raw. It was real. It was me saying, I'm going to take a punt and then go for it. And all the, everything just landed in the right way, and it felt really real and raw. And there are other times where I just wouldn't get it, and we'd be on take 20, and I've gone, I don't know what these lines mean anymore. They don't mean anything. And I like Naomi, my fiance, we whenever we do tapes for stuff, we will kind of restrict ourselves to maximum 4 takes, because
That's super
otherwise it
interesting.
just doesn't, it's just, you've lost it by that point. You've
Yeah.
absolutely lost it. Also, this is a bit of advice for any actors out there. The most important part of a self-tape is the first 10 seconds.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all. Think about how many tapes casting directors
They just click
are.
through.
They want to know within 10 to 20 seconds, they know whether you're right for the part or not.
Yeah.
And so you can record 8 minutes, but make sure that you've made those choices. And I'm not saying you have to kind of like jump on screen and go, blah. It'd be weird choice.
Well, unless it says that in the script, in which case, say blah.
No, just shove it on. Just shove it at the beginning, just to kind of keep them on their toes and go, this guy's interesting. Yeah, is the first 10,
It's
20
crazy.
seconds.
But yes, I've heard that before. Speaking of, various challenges, what was the actual hardest thing about playing Clive? What would you say was the single biggest challenge outside of the time span?
What was the hardest thing? That is actually genuinely, no joke, a very, very good question.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're so good at
Thank you.
interviewing.
I'll slip you some money for this afterwards.
That's really nice. Thank you.
That.
That's what.
Thank you.
What was the hardest thing?
Or the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is kind of myself in it. Like, I think a lot of the time I probably get in the way of myself in it. I'd overthink a lot of stuff.
Interesting.
Because I was both fortunate and unfortunate to love this franchise a lot.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And so I think I would often break my own rule, is like sometimes give a performance or make a choice early on that wouldn't be for me or the character. It would be in the service of something else. Me imagining what the end product's going to be instead of that. So
interesting. Yeah, and I guess like when you're that much of a big Final Fantasy fan, you're also probably thinking about every other Final Fantasy fan and like not wanting to disappoint them. Like I'm sure you think about audiences and everything, but I feel like that's such a specific and very hardcore audience, very dedicated fan base.
Very dedicated fan base, very passionate fan base. Yeah. We are learning that. It's a very passionate fan base, and they have very strong opinions about this franchise. Always have.
Yeah.
I am one of them. And it's just, it's hard not to. It's hard not to think, am I ruining Final Fantasy?
Damn.
For people?
That is a lot.
It is a lot, and it was on. I felt like it was on me, and I really felt like it was on me around launch. Like I was really happy to go and talk to loads of people and promote this game, because I was really proud of all the stuff that I'd done on it and the stuff that I'd done with the team, and the character meant a lot. But I was so hard on myself, I think, through that process of, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just I felt like I was responsible for it, or I was letting people down if it wasn't what they wanted or stuff, I
think that's actually a very human response. I don't think it's unusual that it's unfortunate, but I don't think it's unusual that you responded that way.
Yeah. And now it's great. Now I'm just jumping on and doing silly memes and asking for tickets to Barbie. But like, it's just.
What was your favorite thing about working on
it? My favorite thing was, oh God, these are good questions. I've never really thought about it. What was my favorite thing? My favorite thing about working on it was the fact that I got to be the lead in a Final Fantasy game. That
the fact that you did the thing that you did.
The fact that I did the thing, the fact that this is going to be, in anything in my life, this will be top 5 things. When people are like, top 5 things you did in your life, this.
Yeah.
Like the entire experience was so all encompassing, because so much happened to me in my life during the making of it. I have spoken about this before in interviews, but my dad died in the process, and like, maybe that's the hardest thing.
Yeah.
Is that process of trying to rebuild yourself whilst you're playing someone else, or like, are you hiding behind this character? And I think that
be cathartic in a way.
Hugely cathartic. Amazing to understand yourself and your own loss, because it honestly it has, and it continues. It destroyed me
Yeah.
in my life.
It's like my biggest fear. Like, it sucks that my biggest fear is the inevitability of my parents dying. Keeps me up
Yeah.
at night. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But there's nothing to be done about it. I just had to, it just happened, and you're left with kind of like the pieces of your life. And then you have to pick yourself back up and say, go and make some video games
Somehow.
And that was the hardest part.
That makes
But
sense.
I was able to hide behind it. I think hide behind the regime, the regime.
It's a word choice.
There we go. Please clip that.
Which one?
I was able, just all the silly things that I've said in the past few minutes. I was able to hide behind a routine of going to work every single day, and working on something and seeing progress in it. And because I was there every day, because I was so consistently a part of this process, I was let into the project in a way that I wouldn't have been otherwise. This is a hugely strictly NDA project where you're not allowed to know anything. But I think because they knew me, and I was there for so long, that I would have regular kind of like monthly updates with Koji, and he'd show me like more finished versions of the game.
Yeah,
and
you became part of the team.
Yeah, I did.
I think that's the thing that like we probably don't give a lot of actors enough credit for in video games, is like, especially if you're the protagonist, you are a part of the dev team, in my opinion. If you are playing a character for 4 years, you are a part of the dev team. You're shaping the game, and it's weird that we like disclude that when you can have so much input that's so valuable, and like you can give a performance that will make somebody rewrite a scene because they were like, oh, he did that way better than it was in my head. It's you literally developed a video game.
And I do feel that. I do feel like there are bits of this game where I go, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. And I love it for that. And but obviously it is a huge process, and you know this. There are hundreds, thousands of people working on these things, and you can only have your own input to it. But I would like that more, if that's possible. I would like actors, voice actors in video games to be brought into the process more, I think.
Yeah, I think it does tend to happen fairly often for a very story-driven game for a protagonist, especially because they're often cast quite early so that they can help shape the rest of the story. But yeah, I think it often doesn't for the rest, because I don't know if you're aware, Ben, actors just keep leaking shit. It happens all the time.
Oh, do they?
They just announce games. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. It keeps happening, and someone will be like, "Oh, that wasn't news yet." Like, again, an actor. I think Norman Reedus did it recently.
Norman Reedus for DS2. Yeah. Didn't Tony? Is it Tony Todd do it for the release date of Spider-Man?
Yep. Just keeps happening.
I say these things, and then they are proven to be stupid comments.
Well, it's because you're all so pretty, you know. We shouldn't expect you to keep dates, or you can't read. How do you use contracts? You know, it's just we're expecting too much.
That's us. I just poke my fingers around and hope I'm writing something.
And you get line reads in your ear, and that's how you know the script.
Yeah. I have this all the time. This isn't for this. This is just for... There is actually someone downstairs telling me what to say.
You can't even speak, actually. Yeah, that's tough.
No,
you're killing it. The performance is very good. I believe that you're saying these things.
It took me 4 years to figure out how to do this.
I won't keep you for much longer, in partly because I have to get back to work. Less so because I don't have more questions. Yes, I'm very busy and important. I have way more questions than I could ask, but for my final questions is just generally for the audience of the show. Any extra advice for anyone who would like to do what you do for a living, or get into voice acting or acting in general?
Yeah, persist. That's it, because you never know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I was doing acting, and a lot of people really want to work in video games because it seems really cool. But whatever you want to do, like you've got to really want it, because you're not going to succeed, and the chances are you will fail 98% of the time. You're experiencing the 0.1% of my successes as an actor, and it just so happens to be Final Fantasy. It was the one yes that I got, you know. That's it. Is just be humble, be nice. But I think being nice is super, super important, but also be persistent and understand that you are just going to get knocked back. And that's an awful thing to kind
of rejection.
So much rejection. Don't take it personally. It's hard. It's hard to not take it personally. I have moments of just crippling weakness and crippling sadness because I just go, oh, I really wanted that.
Yeah.
Am I not good enough for that?
It's so, but even you could just be too tall. It can be any little tiny thing that has nothing to do with your performance at all, and they'll never tell you, and you'll never find out. You might have the wrong hair color, like they just didn't. It didn't work. It has nothing to do with performance. I don't know. I don't envy the position actors are in, where what it must do to your self-esteem is concerned.
Yeah.
Seems
and
like
sometimes you've just got to put your self-worth to one side. I've been talking to my therapist about this. Is about not necessarily like I am Ben, as I'm used to talking about myself in the third person, but I am more than just being an actor. My self-worth is not directly connected to that. And it's hard because
use your therapist for that one. How do I not be work? What is that like? I don't know how to do that.
I am work. Ben is work. And it's very, very hard not to do that because, you know, I turn up to a social event and they go, what do you do? And I say, I'm an actor. And they go, what have I seen you in?
Yeah.
And if they haven't seen you in anything, you are of no value to them. And it just happens. It happens so much.
Yeah.
The amount of times I could say, oh, I'm in this video game right now. They're like, oh, I don't play games. Is that a thing? And I'm like, it is. And then I feel like I'm explaining myself and I'm justifying what I do to try and impress them, but they don't care.
No.
And it's very difficult sometimes. And I'm pretty good at not falling into that trap, but you just get coaxed in. You just get coaxed in with it.
Yeah, and that's tough because it's even happening for like just regular people, not just people trying to hire you. They're like, what have I seen you in? I don't know. What have you seen?
I don't know.
Are you in anything I would have seen? I have no idea.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know. Would I have seen you in anything? Is me going, I just don't know. Do you want me to list my IMDb for you?
Yeah,
I don't.
Just pull it up. It's QR code it.
Yeah. And it's hard, but
the dog.
There he is. Like,
yes.
Milton. Come here.
I would love to see Milton.
Nice boy.
Oh my gosh, he looks like a little teddy bear. That's a very cute face.
He's a little boy.
Aww.
There he is.
He's perfect. Look at how happy he looks. He got a little mustache.
He's been sleeping.
Oh my God. Thank you. This is all I actually wanted.
That's it. We can go now. That was the real final question right there. Let me see your dog.
That should be the final question of the show every time, actually. I do have to get back to work, but where can people find you if they would like to hear more from Ben Starr?
You can find me in the critically acclaimed video game Final Fantasy XVI, but no, you can. I'm on social media at _Ben_ he's making his bed now, _Ben_Starr on pretty much all of the social media platforms, and you'll see me posting pictures with Milton or just randomly talking about thoughts that come into my head.
Excellent.
About stuff
and Milton, and hopefully
mostly about the thoughts that come into Milton's head, which is that
there.
ball for me.
I'll leave links in the description. Thank you so much for joining me today, Ben. I appreciate you making the time.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on the game. It's quite good.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.